Will, Raj, Julian, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Will, you provide technology that helps us enhance our performance and live a better life. Julian, you're providing technology for technology for self-driving trucks that's really revolutionizing the logistics business in China. And Raj, you provide the funds that help bring all these exciting technologies to us. Will, I want to start with you. Congratulations, very exciting news. Ronaldo has invested in your company just a few days ago, and he is now one of your ambassadors.
Thank you.
Now, the Whoop band, of course, it measures our biometrics. It'll tell us when we should exercise, what kind of exercise we should do, how much time we should spend in recovery mode. So I totally understand why Ronaldo wears a Whoop band, why Michael Phelps wears it. Why should somebody like me wear it?
Well, believe it or not, most of the people who wear Whoop are not of the athleticism of Michael Phelps and Cristiano Ronaldo. Most of the people on Whoop are like you and me, who are trying to better understand their bodies. And, you look around, we're all going to spend about a third or a quarter of our life sleeping, or at least trying to sleep. So first and foremost, Whoop does a phenomenal job measuring sleep and helping you understand that black box of your life. We have a big focus on recovery. We also have a lot of information now around stress, which I imagine affects some people in this room, some more than others. So there's a bunch of different ways, I think, to better understand your body and to have an eye towards performing at a higher level. We started with the world's best athletes, and now over time we work with a pretty general consumer who's approaching Whoop from a lot of different perspectives. I think at the end of the day, you can only really manage what you measure. So if you think your health is important, if you think your fitness is important, start by measuring it.
Yeah, sleep and stress, managing that could work for me. Julian, I want to come to you next. And you have said that your definition of practical AI is to create value for everybody. But first, I want to congratulate you. Your company has hit a record. You've just hit a record of 100 kilometers accident-free, right, for your trucks?
100 million kilometers of accident-free commercial mileage.
Congratulations, that's a huge amount. So that obviously means the roads are safer, which is a huge component of what you do. But how is your business creating value for everyone?
Thank you. What we do, we as a technology company, we were founded more than 5 years ago. And we focus on the autonomous driving technology for the trucks. When we started, we took at that time we called this as a phased approach. So we see the autonomous, the actual application for the autonomous driving for the trucks can take two stages. First stage is still with a safety driver. We can call this a co-piloting. But then the second stage is the fully driverless. But for the fully driverless, we think that would be at least later than 2030. So from now until then, there are still a very large, sort of a long time frame and a very large market. So we focus on making this semi-autonomy technology as advanced as possible, and also make it a massive deployable and commercially deployable. So this 100 million kilometers of commercial mileage is a sort of a testimony for that. It first of all has a very broad industry participation. In China, more than 200 logistic companies, large and small, are using our technology-powered truck every day. It has been equipped into 7 models by 4 OEMs. So it has been a very broad-based participation. And then it creates value, a real value to the customers. Out of this 100 million kilometers, it is full commercialized deployment. It's not like testing. And on average, our customer can create in between 5 to 7% of the cost saving on a per mile basis. And actually that translates to in between 12 to 18 months of payback for that add-on cost for large express companies. And for the broad-based small and medium fleets, that payback period is between 12 to 24 months, so it's very healthy. And behind that philosophy is that we want to create value to the customer, much improved safety, much more comfortable and actually very different kind of driving experience for the truck. For example, daily, that is between 10 to 14 hours of driving. Now, the autonomous system can take up to 95% or even 99% of the work and leave only like on average 5% of the work to the driver. So you can imagine it's a transformation of the driving experience. So that, and also in addition to the fuel savings, so that creates real value to the customers.
That safety record is really impressive. Raj, I want to come to you next. And you've said that B Capital specializes in supporting companies that have the potential to transform industries. Now, I'm sure every founder says that their company is going to do that, and I'm sure Will and Julian have said that at some point as well. So how do you as an investor decide where to deploy your capital? Which company deserves your investment?
Great. Well, it's great to be back here at the forum. You know, in response to your question, I know there's a lot of investors and entrepreneurs here in the crowd. I think it really varies depending on the stage of the company. We invest all the way from ideas through companies that have product and companies that are commercializing and even companies that have scaled to hundreds of millions of dollars. And it does, the answer varies based on the stage. At the very early stage, it's really just driven by the team. When we're investing at the seed stage, we look for founders. If you've done it before, that's a positive, but I always say that some of the best companies in the world have been built by first-time founders, so you don't have to have done it before. But we spend a lot of time looking at, is it an industry that's ready to be transformed? Because there's a lot of industries where they're not actually ready to adopt new technology. So we want to make sure that the industry is at the right tipping point. If there's a product that's already built, we really want to understand how is the product differentiated. And if it's a company that's already commercializing and scaling, for us, the most important thing is repeat customer purchases, because as great as it is to get new customers, the best identifier of early success is how loyal are your existing customers.
Julian, I want to go back to what you said about the trucks and its semi-autonomous driving, and the technology takes care of about 95% of the driving. But you still need a human. Is there a future you see, and how far away it is, when it's fully autonomous? And that makes me think about Elon Musk. He was in China recently. Did you meet him? And he was there to discuss fully autonomous driving technology. What does his visit to China mean for your business?
We look at Elon's visit to China very, very positively. It was a very short trip, and he only met with, I think, government officials. We think, first of all, it gives the Tesla's vehicle a clearance that it meets all of the data security requirements in China. So that is a very big boost for a Tesla, and I think it's also a very good progress and indication that artificial intelligence can truly work across the border. That is very significant for companies outside of China to deploy their technology commercially and scaling up in China. And also, I think it is a good foundation for a cross-border collaboration, which means that in the days of artificial intelligence, actually, people can truly work across the border, and also can effectively sharing and exchanging data across the border. For example, there is a GDPR and that kind of protocol actually is different companies can work together, and the technology can benefit across different markets. And one company actually can benefit from the use cases and the data assets across different geography. That is actually very significant. We look at it in a very positive way.
Now, we can't talk about practical AI and not talk about the issue of privacy. And I, for one, I find that practical AI does make my life a lot easier, but I do find myself thinking about just how much information, personal information of mine is out there. If you look at the Whoop knows a lot about me or my son who wears it, sleeping habits and exercise habits. That's a lot of personal data. When should I worry about my privacy being invaded, and why should I not worry about that?
Well, I do think that consumers should be concerned about data and privacy. I think a lot of big tech companies have abused data and made you essentially the product.
Right.
And at Whoop, we've taken a pretty different approach where we've actually published a whole set of privacy principles. And you can find these on our website. And essentially, we outline why we believe the consumer should own the data. So if you're on Whoop, it's your data. Now, ultimately, that means that you can control what you do with the data. You can consent to have data shared with doctors or research providers and otherwise. But at Whoop, we do not make you, the end consumer, the product. We sell a subscription, and that's our product, and that's what we generate revenue from. So I think it's actually a very different approach to data privacy than nearly any other player in the space.
How do you build trust with a consumer? And how much time do you spend thinking about trust?
I mean, I think you build trust through consistency. It's hard, I think, for a technology company immediately to demonstrate trust because you have to, build a reputation. Mm-hmm. And so it's built through consistency. I think it also helps that we have very high-profile athletes who wear Whoop, and their data is very valuable. We have very high-profile world leaders who wear Whoop, and you can see the product just on their wrist in photos of them. So clearly, in order to have that type of member base on our technology, we must be doing something right from a data privacy standpoint. Otherwise, why would all these people be wearing it?
Did you find out Ronaldo wears a Whoop band just by seeing pictures of him wearing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little surreal, but often the way that we discover someone wears Whoop is by seeing a photo of them wearing it. And I think it's one of the cooler things about building a product that is targeting a high-performance individual is, high-performance individuals then in turn gravitate to wearing it. And so, everyone from the best athletes in the world to world leaders and executives and Fortune 500 CEOs, we see wearing the product.
That's great. Raj, I want to come back to funding. And in March, you closed another round of funding. You raised $750 million. And this time you had investments from existing companies and also new investors. As you were speaking to LPs, how much of a priority was AI for them?
I think it's a little bit a tale of two stories. I mean, AI is in every discussion, but it's also so prevalent that I don't think people are specifically talking about AI in the tech industry as much because everything involves AI. So for us, I think what we see is that there's been a downturn in venture capital funding. I think prices have come down over the last 3 years since the 2021 peak. And historically, if you look at it, some of the best years to invest in venture capital have been the years where there has been less capital. Our industry is a strange industry. When our industry is really hot and everyone's talking about venture and everyone's talking about tech, those are normally the highest price years, which end up being some of the worst investment years. And when we're on the third day of conferences and VC and innovation is being less talked about, then it's some of the best times to invest. And so we are really excited to keep backing some of the best entrepreneurs in our portfolio. We think that there's also some great new investments we'll make out of this opportunistic pool of capital in later stage companies. And growth has really had a tough go over the last 3 years. I think companies that are, that have scaled to 50, 100 million revenues that are 2 to 3 years away from IPO have struggled to raise that one last additional private round before they can IPO. We all hope that the IPO window is slowly reopening, and in the back half of this year, we'll see some more IPOs. I think 2025, we will definitely see more IPOs. But that still implies that it's been kind of a 3-year gap. And so we're excited to keep funding and doing those last private rounds before companies go out and go public.
We've been talking a lot about that, about hoping that the IPO market picks up. Julian, I want to come to you about something that's quite topical, and the US-China trade wars. How concerned are you about that, and do you think that might impact your business?
Unfortunately, this is a challenging sort of topic. Yes, that means, at least for the time being, we do not choose to just provide the product in US market, although I do believe that the technology is capable of replicating the same kind of customer value and commercial success. But globally, I think the market is actually big enough. For example, we are receiving a number of inquiries, with actually very strong interest from outside of China, because the challenges faced by the logistics customers are universal. Actually, across all economies, it's very difficult to hire a truck driver. And also, it is even more difficult to retain the truck driver. And safety is always a big challenge. And then there's an increasing demand for emission reduction. And that is actually all has been successfully addressed by our technology and our system. So we just focus on, we do a few things. First of all, we still focus on the technology itself. We try to scale it up. And along the process, we make the AI algorithm even more efficient and more advanced. And in the meantime, we make the system even more and more affordable. And with that, we believe that it will be natural sort of extension of our technology across different geography. I think that will be good enough for us. But in the meantime, I still see, for example, the visit of Elon Musk as a very good, very positive signal that people and companies can work across the border in this data-driven AI technology. And also, I think that I like the topic today for the practical AI. That actually can drive everybody work together, because when we talk about practical AI, it's about the advantage of the AI itself. It's also about scaling up, which means engineering complexity and also like a cost effectiveness. By combining everything together is actually even more challenging than just focus on the pure AI.
Well, I see people wearing the Whoop band a lot, but I also see people wearing a Whoop band and the Apple Watch together. Why are they wearing both? And are you at all concerned about the competition, and that one day, if Apple can do what Whoop is doing, that people might just choose the Apple Watch?
Well, we've always had a big focus on health and fitness data. And I think Whoop is great at all the things it does for all the things that it doesn't do. So, we don't have a high-resolution screen. We don't have push notifications and emails and all sorts of recording and phone calls. These are just additional functionality that distract from the quality of health and fitness data. And so, as a consequence, we've been able to have really the most high-resolution health data and with a non-invasive form factor. And many people, it turns out, want to have a non-invasive form factor. They have enough screens in their life. Maybe they want to wear Whoop and an Apple Watch, or they want to wear Whoop in their own watch, or they want to wear Whoop and nothing else. And I think having a longer battery life and having higher quality data has been an important market positioning for us. Additionally, we've built a sensor that's really mostly worn using different fabrics and materials. So it's a product that people can accessorize and wear in different ways, and also wear in different locations on their body. And all of these capabilities have made the product something that's easy to wear 24/7. When you think about the power of artificial intelligence with health data, it's really leveraging a unique data set. Right? A lot of the AI capabilities are going to be commoditized over time. And so the question will be, well, what is the unique data set? We believe having really accurate 24/7 health data is a very differentiated health set.
I think we have time for one more quick question. And Raj, I'm going to come to you because I know that climate tech is a big priority for you. B Capital has just hired 2 executives really to focus solely on climate. But when I read that, I was also sort of struggling to understand that you have this commitment to climate tech, but you're also investing heavily in AI, which is so resource hungry. So how do you square both those?
It's a great question. I mean, our partners at BCG have been looking at the impact that AI can have in climate tech itself and saying that it can help reduce emissions by 5 to 10%. But on the flip side, AI and data centers are just huge consumers of energy. We're looking at investing in marketplaces around using renewable energy to fund a lot of data centers and AI power consumption. And I think you'll see that shift. What you're already seeing is that the big tech companies are making commitments to using renewable energies more and more, and they're going to become some of the biggest buyers of energy over the coming years. And I think you're going to see places like the GCC become really important for AI, both in terms of funding AI, but also in terms of the energy needs of AI.
Right on time. I'm sorry we're out of time. I know we could have gone on much longer, but Will, Raj, Julian, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.